Welcome back to the channel, everybody. It's time to paint and freshen up the rest of the brakes and calipers and rotors on this truck. Those of you that might have followed know I changed the brake hose and the caliper on the other side, which again is a red caliper. That was a spare one I had painted off of the truck. I like to go ahead and paint rest of them to match that particular caliper. So this time the difference is going to be we're going to be painting it on the truck. We're not going to be removing the complete caliper, the bracket. We'll remove it from the bracket or the knuckle to get the rotor off and everything, but we'll leave the hydraulic line attached. And like I said, I've done it many times. Works out great. It's not that bad to do. So I have the wheel off, the truck's on jack stands. The first thing that we're going to do is take a wire brush on a drill or a grinder and clean it the best we can as it is, because it is held in position here. It's the best way to do that right now. And then once we remove it, hanging it from the hydraulic hose, we could try to clean the other side of it that we can't reach this way. A drill with a wire brush on the end. Whatever you can reach, try to clean that up. Remember, we're keeping this intact as far as the hose goes. We're not detaching it, so we don't have to bleed it later on or what have you. It is better to detach everything and paint everything separately so you can super clean it, but it's not necessary. Whatever it takes, you can use a hand brush, wire brush, drill, a grinder like that with the wheel on it, with the brush wheel on it, what have you. You're just trying to get all the scaling off and the surface rust or what have you. Now the best time to do this is when you're changing your brakes. Then you can do brand new pads, paint those whatever color you want. In my case, everything's been done on this truck. This has new springs, struts, leveling kit, tie rods, control arms. Everything was done. At that time I didn't do that. So the brakes are 90% still. So I'm going to keep the same pads, but we'll clean them up, paint them different color like I did on the other side. So at this time I did the best I could without removing it. So right now we're actually going to unbolt the caliper with the bracket, separate everything, the pads out, we'll get the slides out, clean those up separately. It is easier to have the wheel cut to the opposite direction. In this case, being passenger side, I have the wheel cut all the way to the left, which is the driver's side. So these two, I've noticed some are 13s. These happen to be 14s on this side. I guess it depends if the caliper has been replaced. Some of the aftermarket ones can be 13s or 14s. This side seems original. These are 14 millimeters. So again, there's two of them. Here's my bolt tray. So at this time, the caliper is removable. You want to go ahead and remove your ABS cable that's clipped in to the hydraulic hose. So we'll go ahead and pull our caliper off completely. You can just let it hang unless you got a weak hose that will break here. That has happened. Or you can take a coat hanger and hang it off of the control arm if you have to. So we have the caliper off. We can go ahead and remove our pads. The pads are removed. Remember, there are clips on the end of it. That one fell off, just like that one there. Keep track of those if you are reusing them. Go ahead and throw those in the tray. So these pads are still pretty good. They're fairly new. So we'll clean those up, paint them the color we want to match the other side. Here's our slides. We can go ahead and pull those out just like so. We'll clean those up, re-lubricate them, stick those back in. So one up here, one down here. That's your slides for the caliper. So right now we need to remove two bolts. There's one here, one here. That's screwing, going right into the bracket here. Those are 21 millimeters. Usually they're fairly tight. You can use an air impact or break them loose by a breaker bar. And then you can get them off by hand or a gun. The bracket will come off. And your rotor can come off. Now we can give this a final clean here. Take a grinder with a wire wheel on it, clean it the best you can. Also the outer edge, I like to paint that too. And we can take our bracket and the hanging caliper here. You can set it right on top of this here, and we can clean this side or the other side the best we can. Another thing you want to do, you want to take your channel locks or the old pad, or if you got a disc brake tool, you want to go ahead and compress the pistons at this time so you don't have to do it later when it's painted. You don't want to mess up your new paint job. So let's get these cleaned up as best as you can with a wire brush, wire wheel, whatever tool you got. You can degrease them with a degreaser. Even dish soap and water, if you want to wash them, you can. Only problem with that is it takes a while to dry up, so you can't paint them right away. I got the rotor head all cleaned up, the bracket, even the pads, since I'm keeping those pads, reusing them. But remember, when you're cleaning them, concentrate on what you are going to see through the wheel. That's your major thing. Rest, you'll never get it perfect. So at this point, it's wire wheeled, degrease them. So I got all the parts degreased here. So we'll just shoot a thin coat of primer on everything. We'll let this dry and decide what paints we're going to use. So with the rotor, brackets, and the pads primered, now we can look at our caliper. So this is I just got a 5-gallon bucket here with some newspapers covering the surrounding area so you're not spraying all the way around, covering the struts and what have you. So the way I have it hanging here, you can also take a coat hanger, hang it off the control arm, and try it that way. Sometimes that works the best. But you can also do it just like this, sitting on the bucket itself. It just takes longer because you can only do one side at a time. What you want to do is the side that you're going to be seen through the wheel, you want to do that last. That way, when you position it, if it's wet or tacky and you mess it up, it's not going to be seen. You can also shoot it this way with a coat, hanger wire hanging off of something. My inner liner's out, so I got it hanging off the support up top, but you can always hang it off of something else, control arm, what have you. So that's another option, and just cover everything around it with just lay some newspapers around so you're not spraying everything. I was able to get all sides of it, so everything's primed. If you have something that's got surface rust on it and you're unable to get it completely off, you can use a product like this. It's called Rust Reformer. This one's by Rust-Oleum. I'm sure there's other companies that make it. But what this does is it's kind of a primer. So if you have something that has surface rust like this, you can spray that with this and it'll turn into black, kind of like this. And then you're able to paint over that. It hardens up. It's a primer. You don't spray this on clean metal. This is only for if you got a rusted kind of a piece like this. So if you're able to, if this was something that you were looking to paint without actually getting that fully clean, you could paint this surface with this or spray the surface with this, and it chemically kind of bonds to that oxidation, and when it dries up it'll kind of turn like that. So that is a product that you can use as a primer. So at this point everything's primed. We'll let this dry for a little bit. It's gotten a little bit cool out. We've lost daylight. So I'll have to give this some time to dry. Then we'll decide, as far as paint, you can choose whatever color that you are after. I already have my colors. I'm going to do black on my rotor hat and the edge. And I have red as far as my calipers. Rust-Oleum safety red that I've used on the calipers. That's what I always use. As far as the rotor goes, that's Rust-Oleum enamel flat, not flat, apologize, that's Rust-Oleum gloss black. So we'll do the red on the caliper bracket itself. And as far as the pads go, you can pick and choose whatever color. Actually, you can pick and choose whatever color you want for anything. But this is just something I have left over. This is engine enamel from Pontiac metallic blue. Just something I no longer need, and using it up on here. So we'll let this stuff dry. I was able to As you can see, there's really no overspray on any of this stuff when you use a spray can. I was able to hang it here, do this side, then hold the hose and use the same hook on the other side of the caliper, flip it over, so I was able to get all sides at once. Here's a lineup of the stuff I've used to achieve what I'm doing, and I've used this for years. Works great. Here's a primer. Everything's Rust-Oleum just about. It's all compatible either way. There's some duplicolor stuff. Here's my primer. This is the red that I use. It's actually called Safety Red by Rust-Oleum. It's all enamel. Then you have your black. You can get this in flat or gloss. And this is the stuff that you use if you got some rusted parts. And that'll turn into primer. Then you can paint over that. This is just some stuff I had left over from a Pontiac engine I did years ago. I got quite a few cans of this. It's just metallic Pontiac blue. I've used that on the brake pads on quite a few of these Rams. Works great. It's high heat, lasts a while. And then the trick to all of this is the clear that you use afterwards. This is what brings up the shine, makes everything look like glass. So that's one step we got left to do. So let's hit everything with that. And again, you can pretty much choose any color that you like. Once it's dried, it will last. The whole thing is you got to let everything dry. If you're in a cold climate, use the heat, you're trying to get it done, use your heat gun through your steps as far as primer, paint, clear, all that. But still, at least let everything dry overnight before everything can go back into duty and functional. So everything's coated. We're going to let all this stuff dry overnight. And we'll install everything back on the truck. All our paint, all our components are dried up now, ready to handle. We'll go ahead and assemble everything back. I've wire brushed our slides and all the bolts, and I've lubricated everything. So it's all ready to be put back together. I'll go ahead and assemble everything. I'm not going to go through the procedure of explaining each and every step. It's just reversing of how we took everything apart. If you do need help with that, I do have another video I did on installing the caliper on this Ram when we did the other side. I'll leave a link to that if you do need help. Turn all the components back on. It actually came out really good. There is no overspray of any kind. So if you do get some overspray, it's not a big deal. You take some undercoating and you can cover that up and over it. To clean any of that up. I plan on undercoating the frame and everything and all the components under here anyways, so that'll further clean this up. But no, I just got to do that to the rear axles. Normally when I do all four of these, I'll do everything at the same time, get all the wheels off, take everything off, clean all the components at once, and then paint them all at once, and then assemble everything all at once. It works out much better, doesn't really take that long. You can get it done in a couple, 2-3 hours. Just all depends on how fast the paint's going to dry. You can use a heat gun if you need to. Not hard at all. As you can see, it came out really good even without removing the line. Now the best thing with that is we don't have to bleed the system or anything like that. Put the wheel back on and we're ready to go. Here we have all the rear brakes assembled. Side looks brand new just about. Thank you for watching.